Well, I come from central Montana, very white. One of the greatest eye-openers I had was my first year here. And I mean, we have kids from all over the world. That's so cool. And I got toward the end of the year, and I realized that in my classes still, some of the kids didn't know each other. They got to get to know each other. So I really made some big adjustments there.
Jeff Verderer teaches freshmen through senior English in the Virtu Academy at Mariner High School. Jeff took his first steps toward equity in the classroom by finding ways to learn about his students and to open a dialogue for students to learn about each other. For starters, respect and exchange are built into the structure of Jeff's classes. He makes students change seats, for instance, and he constantly mixes and matches students into different work groups. He also takes time to acknowledge students as they enter his classroom.
First thing is be outside the door and greet them when they come in. And look him as an individual as each one comes in is not as, oh my gosh, here comes my freshman English class again.
Jeff is fortunate. He has many of the same students every year throughout their high school careers. So we built a curriculum that leads them down a path of self-knowledge and open sharing. We'll explore his curriculum in more detail later in this video, but the essence of it is developing a climate of trust and honest exchange.
Trust is, I think that's more important than anything I can, any content that I can teach. And that's something that takes time and understanding and patience. When they share their fears with me, I can share my fears or with them. We can make that connection. Then it's a matter of building up their belief system. Mentally, no.
Jeff starts the dialogue with his freshman classes. When studying the Odyssey, he has students make maps of their own histories, their odysseys to date. Then he challenges them to make maps of their futures, complete with monsters and roadblocks.
She'll help me.
That's one of the reasons I'm going to be going to NASA. And I want to become a mathematician.
And then, before you know it, I'm a chiropractor. Shazam.
Then I go to Morehouse College in Atlanta. Monsters, money, grades, teachers.
As they're listening to each other, they're learning from each other.
And then my monsters are going to be my friends because they might try to pressure me or distract me.
The roadmap is really important because kids are crawling around in each other's skin and appreciating and valuing differences.
My odyssey starts at Manor High School. I want to be a journalist.
My goal is to become a pharmacist.
My goal is to become a bookkeeper.
Any way I can have kids share experiences, it makes things more of an equal playing field, and no matter what their background is. So I try to make lessons like that in all my classes.
Jeff firmly believes conversations about equity begin in the classroom, but he is also co-leader of an academy-wide equity initiative. To further that initiative, Jeff proposed regular students of concern meetings between teachers.
Kids, even in this small school, there's kids that want to hide and slip through the cracks. And what our goal was to do is talk about how in our classrooms we are changing our teaching to help these kids. Unfortunately, we did that. We started that the first quarter, and we haven't been back to it.
The planned target student meetings have been a little bit problematic in our academy setting because we've been so overwhelmed, my colleagues and I, with other responsibilities.
Allowing time for teachers to talk about student work, experiences in the classroom is our #1 roadblock right now.
Expanding dialogue and candid conversations beyond the classroom often takes structured settings both inside the school and outside. Some meetings bring together teachers and administrators from a number of schools. These sessions aren't always easy or comfortable, but they're a start.
This is what I found out about my young African-American boys, is that they feel inferior. They feel that they're doomed, and it turns into rage.
African-American students, males. Actually, I have one. My own son, 17. He tries to intimidate me. His own mom. Well, for me, doing this work means a journey. Being really ready to take a real close look at yourself and beliefs, deeply embedded beliefs. And I have to literally let him know, that little bling bling does not intimidate me, but it really can intimidate some of the female teachers.
I can intellectualize it all I want, but until I can address that fear that I've got here, it's not going to go anywhere.
There's the professional and the academic component to it, but there's also a personal and almost a psychological component where you need to do some really deep reflection on yourself and what your values and beliefs are, and change.
Because how many teachers say, well, I don't really see color. If you don't see color, you don't see your African American students.
I remember 2 years ago.
It's difficult work, and it really does require support and I think validation.
And as a principal, it's important for me to take this information and make sure the systems that we have in place are set up so that we actually are able to listen and to honor the different diversity groups that we have at our high school.
So how do you go about building those relationships? One, you have to value them and make time for them and create structures for them and look at your schedule really brutally and say, well, if we value relationships so much, relationship building, when the heck is it supposed to happen?
Creating a school-wide forum for discussing equity issues takes time and commitment. At Codman Academy Charter Public School in Boston, dialogue and conversation form the core of the school's values. All of Codman's students are kids of color. Chosen by lottery, they reflect a community where dreams are not always easy to follow.
About 20% have documented special needs.
We're looking at 80% on free or reduced lunch, so largely a measure for poverty and the poverty line in this country. This group of people in our country, traditionally underserved. I think our society says, we don't want these kids to go to college. This is not our target group for who should get a degree and who should then be allowed to be promoted into the upper echelons of our society. With that said, it is imperative for me that schools in our communities say, we are pushing kids to do this against what our society is saying.
Here they want you to strive, they want you to go to college, they look at your future. They expect a lot from you because they know that you can do it.
It's holding students accountable for their dreams.
I think there's definitely a relationship between knowing students well and having high expectations. I mean, you get to know them really personally and you feel like they can do anything.
Talking about goals and establishing dialogue with students and their families begins with admission to Codman. During entry interviews, teachers and administrators learn the background of each student entering the school. The first question is for the parents. They are asked to tell the story of their child's name.
First naming in the African American tradition is a very powerful, rich heritage, and it immediately puts the parent in a role of expertise that's independent of economics or job or education or anything.
From day one, students map out how to reach their goals, and checking their progress is built into the schedule. Each student has advisory several times a week. There's also time on the schedule for conversations between teachers and administrators.
And if they missed a deadline, they got 0 for that deadline.
Oh, there's no way to make it up.
Yeah, there's no way to make it
That
up.
was the thing you put in this past year, though, right?
These one-on-ones are augmented by weekly staff meetings. And as part of Codman's commitment to equity, a half-day every month is devoted to conversations about race, class, assumptions, and fears.
On a school-wide basis, that's essential to moving forward. It's a very different thing to say we want classrooms and pockets of exceptional relationships versus we want a school of exceptional relationships. What we're trying to do with our race equity conversation is to level that playing field in some ways, to think more deeply about how their personal experience is different or the same from the kids.
I guess I've always looked at teaching as well. A black teacher can do it better than a white teacher because, oh, they're black, and that's the automatic connection.
I felt like I was kicked in the stomach.
So what needs to happen for conversations about race and class in particular to enter into a school is a school needs to be able to acknowledge that some of their struggles are related to race and class.
And then all of a sudden I'm hearing that, you know, I can't contribute to these kids because I'm not their color. So I really reacted very defensively and I was very upset.
It's going to be hard, that if the conversations you're having around race and class are easy, then they're probably not the right conversations.